Defensive coordinators, Jordan and Lesley. Questions for Coach Lesley, Greg?
So, sure, just give us the general overview. What do you think? I know it's way too early to get a great beat, but what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you know what the summers are now. You know, Phil had a pretty good summer. You get a lot more done in the summer than you usually, did a couple years ago. So, it's too early to tell. I really like the group, and they're fun to coach. They're probably the biggest thing we talk about. We don't have the coach effort, and if you can do that, then you got a shot. The rest of it, I think, will fall into place if you got that.
4 practices now. Is there any guys that have strung along 4 good practices now? Anybody that stands out that's through those first 4?
Yeah, I mean, I think our 2 older safeties, Aubrey and Anthony Wilson, have put some good days together. Trey Lathan, who probably had his best day today. Trotter, Ben Cutter, Reed Carrico. I know Neil has talked about the linebacker room, and this is the deepest, most experienced we've been, and so that's fun to watch. It's good to have. Sean Martin has had 3 or 4 good days in a row. I think our nose guard room is really competitive right now. Eddie V is Eddie V, and the thing about him is as good as he has played and as hard and how he plays, he continues to still improve, and works every day at it. So those are some guys that have strung together a couple good days.
A kid like Trotter, with his size, what does he give your defense that maybe you haven't had since you've been here?
The combination of the size, the power, the explosiveness, the athleticism with speed at 240 plus, and so it's a combo of there's not really anything that he does badly, as a whether it's a blitz coverage, tackling, fitting, he's just a total package type of guy.
A lot of new guys in the back end. And you mentioned a couple of guys that do return, but most of the others are guys that are new. So what are your thoughts there, especially at corner, where you're trying to blend in so many transfers?
I think we've gotten more experience and faster, which is what we were trying to do, and that shows up, especially the speed aspect of it. We changed a lot of things last year with our defense, coverage especially, and simplified some things, which at its base, now the older guys are probably a little further along, but at its base really helps new guys, whether that's transfer or high school kids, build a foundation of what we're doing and then be able to build on that as they go. And they've done a good job this summer of picking up on it.
What does Reed Carrico bring to the table, not just as a transfer from Ohio State, but as a somewhat local guy?
Reed is deceptively fast, but I think the defense fits Reed with his skill set. He's a true inside backer. He's strong, he's powerful, he's explosive. But he brings a mental component, understanding. He's really quick to pick up, and that's obviously when you get that with a transfer, most time that comes with experience. They've been in other systems, so they have an idea of not necessarily the terminology is different, but the volume of terminology that you get during installs. So he picks up on it extremely quick, and just gives us again, whether he ends up being a starter or high quality depth, which is what we haven't had. And so Reed definitely gives us that.
Deepest, most athletic group of linebackers you've had since you've been here, you think?
Yeah, deepest, top to bottom.
Top to bottom? Yep. Yeah, I mean, you guys have put a lot of effort and time in getting that filled out.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, and a lot of, depending on the scheme, I think the linebacker in a lot of ways, you watch the draft, right, and you watch where the importance lies and who drafts the positions, and sometimes even in recruiting. But I think the linebacker position is undervalued a little bit. Not that there's anything wrong with 7-on-7, but a lot of high school kids they play their season, then the rest of their year is 7-on-7 stuff, and that does not show how a linebacker can really play the game of football. So I think a lot of times in recruiting and not only there, but just the game in general, I think a little bit of the linebacker in some schemes a little bit undervalued. And I don't think I'll ever get to that point, or anybody on our staff will ever get to that point. I think that's I've always said this, like I think that's your quarterback on this side of the ball.
And that hybrid, you can maybe have a bigger guy there at times too now, right?
Which one?
The spear or whatever.
Yeah.
You can
have
take
you can
Nathan
have
maybe or whatnot.
yeah, you can have a bigger guy there. We primarily work the safety body ish there. But you can, and the schemes and the fundamentals and the techniques you teach they're all the same. So you're able to get some, as we go, get some different teaching to some different guys, different bodies.
You mentioned last year a lot of going back to the basics. Where are you this year in regards to that? Is it kind of more like that work, so we're keeping some of that, or are you able to be more of a, not having to go back to the basics as much because you have maybe more veteran players?
Right. Well, in year 2 of anything that you do, you're obviously going to expand on it a little bit. However much your kids can handle is however much you will expand on it. I think we're pretty close to the same. We've done some things. I think that the big difference in our group last year is we worked really hard at being good at football, tackling, shedding blocks, angles to the football, force and overlap angles, and we worked extremely hard on that. And I know y'all have heard me say this, made that mistake in 22, and I'll never do it again. And so we're a little further along in some areas. Some areas we don't think we need to, but we've continued to expand the way that we work on being good at playing football. And I think that was the biggest difference last year, and I think it'll continue to be the difference in how our defense plays.
Moving Aubrey down to Spear. So you did that in the spring, and he played there some, I know, in the past. But how's he worked? Why do you think he's better, closer to the line of scrimmage than a deep safety?
I think it allows him to play the way he wants to play. Aubrey, obviously his athleticism and his speed and those things, they're always going to show up. But Aubrey's aggressive. He is, I don't want to say see ball, hit ball, because Aubrey's way, way smarter than that. But it does allow him to use his football IQ and still it frees him up, allows him to play very free. And I think that helps his game. I think that's his body type, that helps his future. And it's been good for us.
You mentioned out in Las Vegas, you could maybe move him back and forth depending upon the scheme you're facing or whatnot. It's not just locked in there, right? Is that?
Well, we play him. The more experience you have, the more you're able to dual train, and that helps with your depth. Yeah. And so it's not really necessarily based on personnel. It's just based on, hey, let's knock the dust off on some of the back safety things every couple of days to make sure if we do get, because he's played a lot of snaps and played some good ball, to make sure we don't get too far removed from that in case we were to have to do that. And Aubrey understands that.
Jordan, the changes you made in season last year on defense, like after the Penn State game that you talked about, I guess I was never clear if that was just a kind of a get through the season or get through a rough patch, or did you carry some of that stuff over and liked what you saw and that's part of who you are and what you do now?
Well, if I go through, that what you're talking about early, that was more about personnel, the changes, and performance of certain guys not performing and getting the right guys in the right places. Because honestly, like, you practice, and with a little bit of inexperience, you really never understand. You never know what's going to happen till the game, and we saw that, and so we had to make some changes. Now you fast forward to the middle of the season, where you have a couple of key injuries right there. That's a totally different adjustment. That may be some schematic adjustments, or may just limit what you can do. But early in the season, it's really just personnel adjustments and getting guys into position to see if they flat out just could perform under pressure or under the lights. And we were lucky to find a combination that did. And I think the difference this year is, I don't think you're hamstringed to one. These are our guys. We're going to be a little more rotational, I think, with being deeper, so that if there's a performance lapse in a quarter and a half or in a game, we're kind of going to be next guy up, as opposed to having to wait till the next game to make changes. If that's, if that's answer your question, Mike.
I realize you kind of hit, a pothole in the middle of the season with the injuries, but so maybe you never even found out. But I guess it sounds like what you're saying was that you spotted something that couldn't go on any longer. Personnel.
That's exactly right.
Okay. And then just two guys that are in green, but seem like they're part of your kind of immediate plans or spells in Redwood. They can't do a lot right now, but like just watching Jacoby, for example, seems like he's doing a lot. He can perform, but what can those guys accomplish that keeps them in the mix? What can they do that they're not out of sight, out of mind?
Asani is a little bit of a precautionary thing. He can, he'll be ready to go. Jacoby has done a really good job at post-surgery with his rehab, and looks really good. And he'll, once we get him to where he can full go, we'll see at what point. You'd have to ask Vince at what point we think that'll be. But Jacoby's a prime example. I use this with a number of guys through the years. Of some guys progress faster than others, and some guys it takes time. Jacoby has taken it, especially in the last year. He has grown, and he has really taken advantage of the development piece of our program, and as quite honestly, is night and day from last year to this year. Just his approach to training, his body, just overall. Being an athlete, being a collegiate football player at this level, and that'll pay off.
Things with him in practice. I mean, again, not a guy who can physically with him in practice, and you're not doing tackle whatever. But I just watched him a couple of times, and he's broken on balls or broken things up, and looks like he's practicing a lot. Even though he's not full, there's still things that do get your attention or do get Shadon's attention.
Yeah. I think, probably the thing that sticks out the most to me is Jacoby's stronger. He's stronger. I think he's probably a little faster. I think he understands now probably the biggest change is how to play corner at this level. Just simple things. You generally start with man coverage and then work from there. But he has made a drastic improvement just every day his approach, especially since his surgery. And those are probably the two biggest things that stick out to me. He seems stronger. And anytime you're stronger, you play more just naturally at any position. You play more confident. So I see that in Jacoby, and I think he's gotten faster.
How much cross training do you do with Aiden Garcia, or do you just lock him in at corner and let him go there, or do you use him a lot at safety?
Well, his skill set allows you to do that, but he has really, really shown some positive things at corner. And so we're just trying to make sure that we perfect, really get close to, hone in on those skills before we really do a whole lot with anything else. But he does have a skill set to be able to do some multiple things.
Pass rushers, you think you've got enough guys that can beat one-on-one blocks, or you're going to have to help them with schemes and do some things? What do you combination?
I think we can beat one-on-one blocks. How you beat them has to fit the skill set of your guys. Some are more twitchy and powerful. Some are bigger and stronger. So, and that's really on the player to understand what I need to be good at and don't do things I'm not good at. But I think we do.
Jordan asked you about this a little bit. The new technology that's there on the sidelines for you all this year, the tablets and then also the helmet communications, how does that impact what you all do on defense? How does that make your all's jobs easier as well?
Well, I hope it's different than the practice one, because the only thing it affects right now is how much I weigh. Like I look like I'm going scuba diving. They're putting all this stuff on me. But I think during the game it'll be different. We had it in the bowl game, and it really defensively, to me, it depends on how much communication you want. I think you can overdo it. And I think it's more about operations. And because right now you honestly have no idea how your first opponent or any opponent after that will come in here and use it offensively. And so just like anything else on the defensive side of the ball, yeah, you're going to have a plan, but it's probably going to have to adjust to what they're doing a little bit. But as far as this information, we just try to control the amount, right now, and just use it for just simple things. And that could be, anything from alignments to whatever. And then I got to train myself. because it's different than the bowl game where now I think you're off at 15 seconds, and then you go to the tablet. So you can be sitting there. You can't be sitting there rambling on, not watching the play clock, because then the guy you cut off at half a sentence, and then the guy sitting there going, "What did he say?" So it's as much about training myself, the coaches on the sideline, how the communication should be in a the most efficient, simple way. And maybe that's not everybody else's plan. I've done a lot of asking and talking and research this off season, just people I trust to know and what their plan is. And I think the majority of people are about the same. I don't think it's as big a deal as people probably make it out to be.
How about the extra coaches? Has that allowed you to get to all the different groups more and move around the field more? Has that freed you up?
Oh yeah. I mean, it just makes you really efficient with what you're trying to do. But, I always take the D-line, for example. And AJ's done a phenomenal job building the room, coaching, the whole thing. But, every one of those skills are different. A DN is different from a nose guard, is different from a D tackle, is different from an outside backer / DN hybrid, whatever you want to call him. And so where now you really kind of hamstring on how you broke those groups up, and now you don't have that. We have one person that's coaching every single one of those based on what they need to be working on, whether it's a technique or fundamental of that day, whether it's something schematic. Same thing in the secondary. We talked about the Spear with Aubrey, and now you got the field safety, boundary safety. Those all have different things that they do and within the scheme of our defense. Not very different, but they're just, and now you just get so much more teaching of the basic things. Just makes you more efficient. It's been huge for us.
Do you give any thought to the extra communication and how that could aid offenses, and maybe offenses could all be better than they were without that extra piece of communication? Do you think that's overblown?
I think it's probably a little overblown. I think, some people think it's advantage offense. Some people think it's advantage defense. I think it's all dependent on how the players handle whatever's given to them post when the mic cuts off. That's just my opinion, and so if they're able to handle that, you'll probably see a change in some people, being that, let's say they give a quarterback certain sets of formations and plays, and after 15 seconds, he calls it. Well, not every quarterback can probably handle that, or not, you know what I'm saying? And so there's going to be defenses that can handle maybe more than others. I don't know. It's just, I think that'll be what unique to every single team with how they handle it. But I think for the most part, it's probably a little overblown.
And secondarily, similar but kind of an off question to that, how much different is it for you to get the defense ready for a season with an offense that has so much experience together? A lot of players coming back. Green already had a season as a starter. It's not somebody new coming in. It maybe an offense that's clicking more. Like, is that more of a test to you guys going into the year?
You talking about against our offense or Penn State?
Like against WVU's offense.
I mean, the thing that every offense formationally sets of plays, not necessarily the actual plays, but just sets of plays, passing concepts and protections. Most every one of them just at their base are pretty similar. So you get to see, it's just like defenses. You have 4 down fronts, you have 3 down fronts. Somebody runs a version of every one of them. So you get to see the basics of that. Line up, do whatever you do. And then some of the things that Garrett Green presents within our scheme from last year, those are things that are really good to see. And there are going to be some times when there are some times. There was some today. There'll be some, next time we go on the field, there'll be some in the first scrimmage. All right, because, we're not necessarily trying to stop them, but it gives us some video down the road of how, when we see that style of offense, we have ideas and corrections and things that are built in off practice film. So it's, with what they do, it's really good for us.
Helmet communication, is it always linebacker that's going to have the receiver, safety?
Honestly, Greg, I don't know yet. We're doing a number. We're doing a trial run through fall camp. And I'll probably, quite honestly, go to the players and ask them at the end, what did y'all think was the best? And I'll take their advice on it over anybody.
You have multiple guys ready. And somebody, there's
I hadn't even thought about that cluster yet. So,
But I mean, it's,
but yeah, yes,
you're going to
yeah,
have to.
Yeah, you're going to have. You know, you got your sub packages. You got injuries. You got yeah. I don't envy Danny and them at all on that. But I haven't even, And again, I think you can go a little bit down a rabbit hole sometimes on that with what you prepare for and take away from preparing for just being good at football.
And then Neil, you guys start your heavy work Monday and Tuesday and then getting into it. Neil said this is going to be a physical practice. I guess there's a balancing act there, right? Because you need to get them the work they need to see what they're going to see coming up, because you've got those first 7, you've got a lot of heavy run game, a lot of, how do you balance that?
At this point, you worry about us. How we everybody in this organization known going into this camp, and we were up front. We were going to be every day's physical. We have spider pads on. There's some physical element to it, and we really started that last year. And that is something that has really, at least for us, there's really more of. I know we changed a lot of things, but there was a shift in mentality, and we had to work really hard on that. And if you don't work on that, it's hard to say that's an identity for you if you don't work on it, and your players have to buy into it and accept it. And we have, and them guys know that, and so, and I think we all know what the first 7 is, but that's so far away from me right now, and I know who they are and what they're about, and so, but I do know that in those, that'll be an aspect that'll probably determine winner and loser.
You had the spring to have your new role kind of walking around positionless, right? But in June they gave you the unlimited assistant coaches, right? How much does that change things? What other organization or coordination do you have to do now, having all those people at your disposal?
It really helps me, one, with efficiency, and then build a practice, build a meeting, build schedules, game plans. It's just, we always say this, whether it's 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 foot view of things, but to where I think a lot of times people would think it would allow you to expand on a lot of things. It really just allowed me to hone in, like really, really sharpen what we're trying to get good at. And we have a system we use on defense. It's called Path to the Ball, and it's taking the drills that we've done and expand them within other groups and those same coaches that you talked about that are now able to coach. And now we've taken, maybe it's a leverage drill, and we've really done a lot of research on those things this offseason that just you make a little bit of tweak to it. And I'm able to see that real time from drill to drill to drill to drill to drill, and then I'm able to come back the next day and, all right, let's change this. And I think it's been really, really good. It's made a huge difference fundamentally in our players, understanding just simple things that make you good. And just to keep, never get too far from that. And probably the biggest thing is seeing the improvement, knowing we don't need to get away from what we're doing. And so, and it's just you get honed in on one drill a lot of times, or one group. You have to go back and you have to study the film or make yourself go to different parts of practice to see the improvement. And it's almost like I'm seeing the improvement. Some of these guys like real time, like drill to drill. And it's fun. It's fun for me. It's fun to coach, fun to watch. And then, I've said this about, like Randy and Trey and some of these GAs, like we put a very thorough process into bringing guys in here. And now for them, they're able to showcase why you actually brought them here. And it's really helped us. It's really helped us. Like, those are some good football coaches. And so.
I haven't seen any Rocky Gallagher playing quarterback. Is that just a spring thing, or is?
Well, yeah, I mean, you just, again, you're trying to see if there's an ability there to help you depth-wise. And the reps he had in the spring, I thought he did a really good job. I think if it ever came to a certain scenario, or if that got to that, I think he could. He actually has a skill set too. So.
fair to say second scrimmage, you like to have most of your questions answered, or you think it'll carry on in some areas?
Yeah, I mean, your basic ones, you know, really kind of how your depth chart's going to be built, especially in the top two. You know, your questions on how, you know, how you're. There's a lot that there's some that are, there's some that aren't. But as the basics, who really depth charts, especially getting the sub packages, that's kind of where you want to have some of that cleared up.
So basically 2 weeks.
Basically 2 weeks, yeah.
Okay, anything else for Coach? All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.